43 seconds of logos. The credits are in this movie longer than Emma Roberts. Also, Comcast. 1 minute and 6 seconds of reading a text thread that I'm supposed to remember because it'll be important later in the movie. Problem is, no one tells me that in the moment, so later, when it's referred back to, I just feel like an asshole for letting my mind wander trying to work out if there's anything I can sin about that drinks cart instead of paying attention. Who the types the ellipsis first? Do you know how hard that is to do on a phone without the autocorrect feature freaking the out and calling you a psychopath? Also, are you alone is not how you address a group chat. Who's alone, Ted? There are 6 other people here. So who the are you talking to, Ted?
Hey, is that the Heidsick?
I'm sorry?
A German sub sank a ship.
Dick here will continue to rich position us about Chekhov's champagne bottle for quite some time. And if I have no interest in watching the movie James Cameron will take 10 years to make about the topic, you can be damn sure I have no interest in hearing this asshole talk about it. One of the victims wakes up and causes a commotion on the private plane, and how the is this guy not handcuffed or chained or some shit? Did they really not think that the people they sedated could ever wake up mid-flight?
May I use your pen?
Could he have picked a more awkward way to kill this dude? There have to be a ton of objects on this plane that would have done a better job than a pen to the neck, right? Look, I really like 2-time Oscar winner Hilary Swank, but is she a don't show their face until the very end kind of actor that would surprise and delight us when they make the reveal? Besides, the trailer royally f***ed that surprise up. $1 Million Stabby. This body, which is still alive, by the way, isn't leaving a trail of blood after being punctured in the jugular and disoculated. Yes, I know disoculated isn't a word, but you knew exactly what I meant. And it's a lot easier to say and spell than enucleal off.
Redneck.
So far, the liberal elites are cartoon villains that you'd see in a movie funded by Charlie Kirk or Dinesh D'Souza. Part of that's the point, since we discover that a right-wing conspiracy theory inspired these particular liberals to make it true. Anyway, to make it seem as if both sides are equally ridiculous, this movie will observe liberals through a microscope, make summarized assumptions, and then continue the scientific method by asking Scott Baio what he thinks Kevin Sorbo heard from James Woods about it.
Wow.
You've just woken up in the middle of suspicious as nowhere with a gag padlocked to your head, and you're going to ignore the guy yelling trap? Your entire life is a trap right now. Let some other dumbasses check out the convenient crate. Many of you see a man protecting himself from a potential explosion by using the end of this crate as a shield. But what I see is a future platform that I can use to move Ellie around the water in The Last of Us.
Hey!
What was the point of the mouth guards if they were going to be given a key to unlock them straight away? It's not like calling for help is going to do all in the middle of nowhere, and they didn't have them on the plane, so what was the point?
That almost hit me.
This movie tried to make it seem like Emma Roberts was our main character, and seeing her bite it from the get-go is a great way to subvert audience expectations. They straight up Janet Lead her, but they spent nearly 7 minutes building her up, basically, just to tell a joke. I know we're going to butt up against the but it's satire argument a lot in this movie, but what exactly is this moment satirizing? How did she not see this huge f***ing hole in the ground? And more importantly, how did she manage to spin herself around to land on her back when we saw her fall face first?
1, 2, happy birthday!
Green Arrow from This Is Us pulls the woman up by grabbing her arms, but there was clearly a spike in her right leg as well, which would make pulling her up just by the torso impossible. This is at least a 2-person job. Being annoyed so much about your death that you break the 4th wall with it. Also, I guess it's a good thing for the movie that no one stepped in this trap or on these mines before they opened the crate full of weapons. I mean, I guess. Who knows what's good for this movie, really? What are we doing here, people? Are we in a scary movie ripoff? Was that your goal? Because I don't think your parents would be very proud. Apparently there's a spike pit and mines in one tiny area, but everyone else has been able to run freely into the woods without incident.
What is this Avatar
You see Arrows and Avatar as the first movie you jumped to? You couldn't have said, I don't know, but some other movie with more arrows in it than just Avatar? This will be the second time we've seen a character just blindly run towards a hidden enemy shooting a gun, except this time the victim has a number of places to hide out rather than make himself this easy of a target. This could be an intentional error, but the marquee outside this gas station says Ma and Pa's, yet the actual signage says Ma and Pops. And look, I used to do the letters on marquees like this, so I know sometimes you run out of letters, and it looks like they're out of the letter O, since one is missing from U, but usually that's because you've used a ton of the letter O when you have to spell something like Moon Bloodgood and bedrooms on the marquee, and directly underneath someone misspelled Dr. Doolittle with an extra O. Here there seems to be an inexplicable O shortage. I guess Staten Island is running in here to see if this gas station can be considered a safe place and finds the evidence he needs when he sees the climate change denying news station on the TV. But why the is no one worried about the people at the front counter? If you're in a Manorgate situation, don't you make sure those guys don't have guns first?
Sir, I need the address of your emergency.
Do you want my address in Staten Island, New York?
Are we just doing everyone from New York as an asshole stereotypes now? Because I can't think of another reason why this guy is being as unhelpful as possible to the one person who can send help.
So, those people that are shooting at you, they're just exercising the very same right?
What the f are you talking about?
Will there be sugar after the rebellion?
Okay, so Kevin Costner's wife from Field of Dreams asks Staten Island why he owns 7 guns, and then he says something about his Second Amendment rights and being able to protect himself, which does not answer the question. This leads to the current exchange where Ma comes up with a false equivalency and misusing an Animal Farm quote to get some sort of point across. In the end, I think the movie is saying conservatives and liberals don't know how to talk to each other, but they still somehow make the liberal look even more ridiculous so the movie can appear even-handed.
White people. We're the worst.
So are we satirizing white guilt as if it's a bad thing? Because I really don't think we're there yet, nor are we ever likely to be.
Honey, that's poison!
You rigged the soda?
No. There are 43 grams of sugar in that bottle.
But they did rig the donuts, so why isn't everything rigged in here? Do they just hope that people who come in here gravitate towards a few poisoned items? Also, you. Your husband is in a room full of items that you've poisoned, so why would you describe this unhealthy but not poisoned drink as poison, you you?
A pack of lights, please.
Is that how you ask for cigarettes? Just ask for the lights? Don't you have a brand?
No, no, please!
Cigarettes in Arkansas only cost $6. You f***ed up.
Here's one of many sins we're going to give off for Betty Gilpin's performance in this movie. But also, Crystal is taking a huge chance here that this is a dead giveaway to something sinister, when it could just be a simple mistake in getting the incorrect change back, but you had so many other things that could have added up before the cigarettes. For instance, the fact that there's a sign that says no gas outside and Pop still asked if she wanted to fill her car up. You could have shown her inspecting the car outside first and then revealed the booby traps after she killed them. And you still could have had her point out the price of the cigarettes in Arkansas and had that Hall of Fame line reading from Betty Gilpin. A store that has everything down to the detail somehow doesn't have a real pack of cigarettes.
Did anyone see Snowball go in?
No, we lost visual of the road.
How the f does this operation funded by a billionaire lose anyone? Why aren't there cameras at the gas station?
You should not have shot that drone.
But now they can't see us.
Don't need to, you just told them we're here.
He definitely shouldn't have shot it down, but maybe you shouldn't have been so quick to kill 2 people inside the gas station just because they got the price of cigarettes in Arkansas wrong. Isn't that the same as giving away your position in a movie where the villain should have cameras everywhere? Not walking 5 steps into the bushes to do this.
How fast are you?
What?
Trying to be going slowest at the curve. We're not getting on standing still.
Yeah, but the train appears to be going around a curve that is actually closer to you, and yet you run the other way where we don't see any curve. And look how fast this train is going. You're just trying to make this exciting when it doesn't need to be. Look, it's not a matter of whether Crystal is strong or capable. It's a simple matter of weight ratios. A person this size cannot pull someone this big up into a train, and especially at this angle without serious help from the film editors.
You know what we have here? Crisis actors.
The movie tries to be balanced, but I feel like it's saying, so you see, this conspiracy theory about crisis actors is just as harmful and or hilarious as the liberal elites who shove climate change down your throat, and it just doesn't work.
What are the chances the one train car with the open doors full of illegals?
Shut the up, Gary would be excellent at CinemaSins. But seriously, shut the up, Gary. Crystal was wise to give up her gun and tell Gary to do the same and surrender here. And you'd be forgiven for thinking there's no way they could have evaded capture, but not one of these soldiers boards the train to make sure there aren't other people on it.
Those other refugees, they weren't part of this. They're real. I know. I have been embedded with them, okay? That train wasn't supposed to be stopped.
Mike has gone to a lot of work, considering there was no guarantee any of the hunties were getting on this train. He has gone under cover just on the off chance that any of the mere 11 people being hunted, none of which were even remotely being herded towards this train, jump on board and into his lap. Also, if his plan wasn't dependent on anyone jumping on the train, but the train wasn't supposed to be stopped, when was he going to get off and kill them? And why get on the train in the first place? How is he ever going to do any hunting with this plan? Mike has a ton of grenades in his bag, but somehow it didn't get searched and nobody confiscated them, and he didn't get shot. Gary puts this grenade down Mike's pants and then runs away. Somehow Mike can't seem to find this grenade for 15 seconds. Either it's bullshit that he couldn't find the grenade and throw it somewhere in time, or it's bullshit that the grenade lasted that long before blowing up, or it's both. Take your pick.
You, hunted?
The director made sure this guy was eating the most obnoxiously inconvenient food in the most obnoxiously obvious way so that we would know he was an obnoxious asshole. Why the f was Don brought in wearing a hood?
I mean, why did they give us weapons before they started picking us off?
I'm guessing it was an attempt to do some sort of take on the Hunger Games, but honestly, I'm not too sure what that was supposed to be satirizing other than, oh, he means the people in the movie.
We're rescued.
This guy ends up being one of the hunters, and I'd like to know how the hell they pulled that off. We know these are actual soldiers, which suggests this is a real refugee camp, which means they should have called the real American embassy. So did the hunters manage to intercept that call and send a driver? Or did they somehow foresee this eventuality and have Mike and an embassy car on fucking standby? How did they even know Crystal and Don were here? Honestly, the weakest parts of this movie are the surprise, this asshole you thought was on your side actually wants to kill you parts.
How minor that might make somebody want to try something is...
God damn it, I love Betty Gilpin so much. Sure is lucky that this unconscious man decided to unconsciously drag his unconscious self back into the middle of the road so that Crystal could run him over, considering we saw him get pushed out in a totally different direction. Also, Crystal kills the fake U.S. Embassy guy, and luckily, he stored Gary's dead body in the trunk of the car so that her murder could be justified after the fact.
How'd you know he was lying?
Because everyone is lying.
Okay, cool, but how did you actually know he was lying? Because this is another instance of Crystal being several steps further ahead than she has any right to be. And this is an even bigger gamble than the gas station. All he's done is question why they were picked, which isn't an unreasonable question at all. Now, because we're in a movie, we know that the aversion to victim shaming is likely what gave him away as a snowflake liberal, but that is, again, a very slim justification for your murdering. I know we're watching a silly satire, but I'm not sure we're in a character labels a box bribe money kind of silly satire.
Right there was 11 of us when we first woke up.
How does this asshole know exactly how many of them there were? Crystal slipped away pretty quickly, so how did he manage to do a head count with such confidence? Okay, we find out that Don may or may not be one of these hunters, but if this is proof that he is a hunter, then Crystal should really kill him right now. She killed for less literally 30 seconds ago.
My mama used to tell me this story about the jackrabbit and the box turtle.
Movie has time for Crystal to share a f***ed up version of the tortoise and the hare, as if it's supposed to help us understand her motivations, and as if we actually give a shit in the first place.
Door smashes in. It's a jackrabbit. Smashes up the wife and kids first, so the box turtle has to watch them die.
Attempting to Tarantino your Aesop fable.
Tears of the sun.
That's actually what they called it. Tears of the sun. Why is the sun crying?
This kind of feels like a jab at us and others like us. Here's a sin removed.
Hey, watch out for the tripwires.
Athena, billionaire, set up this bunker where you can hunt down and kill conservatives, but you still have to go outside to pee, potentially running into people who might kill you or run into your own traps.
You almost f***ing shot me.
Well, I didn't, did I? Because you're not...
Hey,
The bunker scene was a chance for the movie to give Crystal something deliciously smart, over the top, and ridiculously fun. But this scene is just like any other mindless one versus all shootout, inconsistent with the two previous scenes where Crystal used her brains to splatter other people's brains. Really? You're gonna miss with a fucking bow and arrow from there? Why is that your weapon of choice if you can't hit something 10 feet away?
do you think you should be afforded mercy just because you're a girl?
No.
If we're going to be consistent with liberals being ridiculous about what kinds of words are proper to use, then why doesn't the movie let Liberty go on a diatribe about Crystal using the word girl here? I mean, don't get me wrong, Crystal immediately killing her after she says no is funny, but the whole movie is about humanity's hang-ups getting in the way of larger issues, and this was the movie's chance to really bring home the satirical bacon. Also, that'll teach those extreme lefties demanding equal rights for all genders. Staying bullet-free is totally worth the lower wages, glass ceilings, and institutionalized sexism. Think yourself lucky.
Dawn. Is she hurt?
Dawn's dead.
By the way, what is it with this old-timey radio device where Athena can hear everything going on in the bunker and people can have a natural conversation back and forth without pressing any buttons?
I heard them call you a consultant.
How the f*** is this guy still conscious? Crystal beat the absolute f*** out of this dude with a pipe a minute ago. Guess it's lucky for her that he's not unconscious because he's able to tell her where the next Karate Kid is.
You in the service?
Afghanistan. You?
National Guard.
Thought you were never in the
Oh, so the National Guard is the real target of this movie. Thank goodness, because those f***ers have had it coming. So glad they're finally exposed for the assholes they are.
Have a seat.
We're at the 1 year ago stage of the movie, and it still can't show us that this is Hilary Swank.
Martin, did anyone see what our rat in chief just did? Liberty, yes. Day equals ruined.
Thinking your 84-minute movie has time to read me verbatim a text thread that has already forced me to spend over a minute reading. The movie finally revealing that this is Hilary Swank thinks that this is the equivalent of Tony Stark showing up in Ant-Man 3.
It was just a joke. One joke.
Wasn't fun.
It wasn't real.
It sounds like the movie is trying to say that the hunt was just a joke between friends that somehow leaked to the internet and transformed into something people actually thought was happening. But who the f*** jokes in the most incriminating way possible like this. This isn't a group of people joking. This is a group of people setting up a contrived twist that the movie didn't even need.
Okay, this is Gary for USA. He's got a podcast called The Confederate Files.
Yet another movie where it thinks revealing information like this is more beneficial at the end than closer to the beginning. And you still could have had the surprises. You yank Ma and Pop out of this scene and replace them with the others who aren't here. You sprinkle some of the surprise players on speakerphone. You still get your gas station and train scenes. Building these characters and their motivations from the get-go enriches the experience in this case. The surprise is not your motivation for telling the story anyway. And you get straight to Crystal going after Athena without a huge flashback. Also, where exactly are the other people who are in on the plot anyway? They were introduced in the bunker scene and considered important, but they aren't here for the planning? They make an innocuous comment later about how Liberty and Ted are in therapy, but for the movie's sake, do they have to be? I guess if you couldn't get the actors, can't you just get a speakerphone in this scene?
I'm playing an Arab refugee. I'm from Connecticut. Isn't that a little problematic?
That was your idea.
Mike is objecting to the thing that he's been asked to do, and we're supposed to find this hilarious because it was his idea in the first place. And it probably would have been hilarious if this was a sitcom from 20 years ago and a different joke entirely.
Yeah, or we could just shoot them as soon as they grab their guns.
But then they're not going to know why we're killing them.
And yet, that's exactly what happens to a handful of the victims at the beginning of the hunt. I know Richard doesn't seem to be the rules-following type, but you'd think the option of him shooting people as soon as everyone is armed would be unavailable to him. Also, the point of the hunt is to capture a bunch of right-leaning people who commented on the Manorgate scandal in the hopes that during said hunt, they will realize how uneducated and ideologically bereft they are. But how the f is that ever going to happen? How is incorporating a hunt instead of just killing them going to give them the opportunity to work out why they're there and why they're terrible people? This isn't a f***ing Saw situation where the trap's inspired by their sins. Just admit you wanted to see Democrats hunt and kill Republicans.
Put your gun in the mailbox.
Did she just walk up to the front f***ing gate of the place? Why is Crystal suddenly dumb?
There's a shaped C4 charge underneath the gate.
Crystal spotted that this car was rigged immediately, and yet she didn't wonder if maybe the big bad's place that she had just been invited to might be trapped as well. Again, why is Crystal suddenly dumb? I'm sorry, I recognize two right-wing political protests, the gender politics one and the homophobia one, but Santa is not real? That's a joke, certainly, but aside from the box marked bribe money, it's inconsistent with the rest of the movie's humor.
It's amazing to me. People go their entire lives without realizing the most simple, obvious truth.
The villain starts with a wordy preamble during their introduction to the hero cliche.
The only way to properly slice tomatoes is with a bread knife.
At first I thought this was a Hunger Games Purge ripoff. Then I thought it was a parody in the vein of Scary Movie. Now I think it's a political commentary in the region of the menu and Triangle of Sadness. The point is, I've spent so long wondering what the f this movie is trying to be or say that I barely had a chance to enjoy it, let alone understand what the f I should have learned from it, if anything.
Did you kill Don? Uh-huh. Because I convinced you he was one of us. Was he?
How does she not f***ing know? Don said that he counted 11 people at the start, and there are 11 pictures on this wall. So is Don one of them or not? Okay, we know that the hunters picked 12 victims and one of them died on the plane, but Crystal doesn't know about any of that shit. So even if there's a person in this lineup that she doesn't recognize, Don's presence or absence should be all the proof she needs.
You know, most people think that you should use cheddar in a grilled cheese.
Skip.
After your mom died, you bounced from part-time job to part-time job to welfare and back.
We'll find out that Athena has the wrong Crystal, but how has no one realized this already? How, during all of this research, did no one stumble across a picture of the Crystal they were aiming for? When the kidnapping happened, did no one think, the name is right, but this lady looks absolutely nothing like the thousands of pictures on her many social media pages? That's f***ing weird.
The evidence is all there. T-H-E-I-R.
Wait, Athena is upset about the their problem? Are we sure she's not the hero?
Oh, you done f***ed up, lady. You got the wrong crystal.
Not only that, but you picked the only one that happens to be the f***ing Rambo Norris Schwarzenvan of crystals. Look, the fight has only just begun, so I don't think we're really at the cooking blowtorch levels of weapon desperation in a room filled with knives, glass, and pottery. Athena clearly has the advantage here, so I have to say it's very sporting of her to chase after Crystal with an unloaded gun instead of loading the gun first and then giving chase. Gotta hit that 90-minute sweet spot, haven't we? This finale is pretty f***ing rad, and I'll back it in a fight against anything you see from your standard Rock, Statham, or Neeson finales. However, it also has so much of the all of the they survived this available plus much more.
Why did you call me Snowball? It's a reference to George Orwell's Animal Farm. Snowball is an idealist. He wants to make the world a better place. That's why the other pigs make up lies about him.
Look, I get that the liberal elites in this movie didn't understand Animal Farm. People misuse George Orwell every chance they get, but totally missing the boat on Snowball strains credulity for me.
We're both dead.
You would think that, based on the evidence at hand, but you would be wrong. And Crystal's wounds seem to be just as bad, if not worse, than Athena's, and yet Athena just decides, nah, I'm cool with dying now, while Crystal eats a grilled cheese sandwich, takes a fucking shower, and puts on some evening wear. Also, one side of this grilled cheese sandwich is completely fucking burned, and the other is still bread, so fuck off with the perfect sandwich we see here. Aw, movie thinks it's The Departed. After not trusting anyone in this entire movie, Crystal just assumes that no one on the plane will try to kill her and casually walks up the stairs without a care in the world. We're talking about a world where one of them pretended to be a refugee on a random train just in case anyone tried to jump on board.
Hi there.
So are these two just like hanging out and ready to fly at all times? I mean, they seem ready to go, so had Athena told them when she was leaving? How did she know? And how did they not hear any of the fucking noise that just happened in the house?
You ever eat caviar?
No, I don't think I'm really allowed to.
What, like ever? After being a deer and sharing the caviar, Crystal decides to drink the $250,000 champagne out of the bottle without offering it to the flight attendant.
How is it?
Glad you asked. Look, I enjoyed this movie, but I didn't like it, and that feels weird. Like, yay, all the terrible people died, but at the same time, they were all caricatures that I couldn't give a fuck about. But at the same time, yay, Betty Gilpin fucking rules. But at the same time, why don't I understand satire?
Hey, I'm being killed by these liberals. Maybe we could just scream and act like it's some horrible accident.
Who throws a shoe? Honestly.
Oh, what's in the box? I'm still alive, but I'm very badly injured.
What are you doing?
I'm urinating.
You just drop trout whenever you feel like.
Well, it scares the deer away so the hunters won't get them.
I don't think they believe you, Gary.
Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal.
You know what? There is no Easter Bunny! Over there, that's just a guy in a suit!
My nose was chiseled by the gods themselves, Frank. My body was sculpted to the proportions of Michelangelo's David. You, on the other hand, well, you're a pit of despair.
That'll do, pig. That'll do.
Once we're in enemy territory, as a bushwhacking guerrilla army, we're gonna be doing one thing and one thing only: killing Nazis.
Bill always said you're one of the best ladies he ever saw with an edged weapon.
You bitch. I know he didn't qualify that shit. So you can just kiss my motherfucking ass.